Hey guys, Kit here. Recently I decided to start doing some competitive White Schwartz deck profiles since a lot of the deck profiles I've seen around haven't really focused on like the competitive side. A lot of them been about like maybe fan decks or just like decks in general, or they don't go in depth enough about how to play the deck or anything like that, or how cards interact with each other that well. So I thought I'd give it a shot and put this on my Burn One blog. It'll probably be also put on the YouTube channel Burn One, and there I'll probably just go over different decks that I've placed well with, or other competitive decks that I've seen and like interested in. So hopefully you guys will like this. The first deck here I'll be showing is this Milky Holmes build. I recently used this deck in the Triple Crown Game Day tournament. There was roughly about 40 people there, and I got tied for third/fourth since the single elimination top 8. And I thought this deck did like surprisingly well, especially since I built it the night before. I've been like wanting to play Milky Holmes for a while, but I sold part of my old deck, and then I couldn't like play the deck anymore. But then I recently put this together right before the tournament, and got a few games in, lost all those games, but still decided to play with this deck, and I ended up doing quite well. So I just wanted to show off a little bit and talk about like the cool interactions this deck has, since I think this is a deck that has a little bit more tricks than a normal deck does. Alright, to start off, I'm going to show off these utility cards. First we have two of the green Ares support, kinda. Its ability is pay 1, give one of your characters 1500 until the end of turn. And then the second ability is tap 2 detective characters and take a card from your level zone and swap it with a card that's in your waiting room. The entire deck revolves around card swap, and and then like abusing that to play things play cards that like normally aren't really good, but because they can you can swap cards, just makes it like a lot more trickier. You'll see it, and I'll explain it later. Then we have two of the new PR Milky Brainstorms of Nero. Like, this card is not an amazing brainstorm, but because this is like the only brainstorm worthwhile in Milky Holmes, you kind of have to run it in any Milky Holmes build. But basically it's pay 1, mill 4 for every climax you hit, give a character 1 soul. Besides that, it's like pretty whatever. You can kind of use it late game to like do exact damage if you wanted to, or anything like that. But besides that, just there to mill your deck. Next, we have these 3 Cheryls where when they come into play, you can discard a climax from your hand and to salvage a character. Basically, we use this just to get rid of climaxes that get stuck in your hand, and also have a very efficient way to salvage characters, since most of the time you'd be using this ability is only to get rid of climaxes in your hand, or if you actually need to pick up some level 1s from your waiting room for your level 1 game, since the level 1 game is actually currently 2 colors, and it's pretty tough to keep them all in your hand, especially early game. And then what's nice about this card too is that it costs no stock to do it, so you can keep compressing and also building more resources for your late game. Next, we have 3 of this Nero Bonder. This, in my opinion, is like literally top 3 cards in this deck. It's pretty ridiculous. Basically, first ability is Bond. It bonds to one of the level 3s that I'll be showing later. The second ability is pay 2, salvage a character. Like, normally that's pretty whatever, but in this case it's amazing because like you can drop this pay 3 and just like +2 off of it, or I guess technically play +1. But still, this card's amazing. It did so much work. It always allows you to get what you need, and lets you cycle through level 3s, especially when I kill your level 3s late game, so you can just keep healing and healing. And honestly, probably in a later build I'd probably put a 4th Bonder in here, because I really think this is like one of the main reasons this deck does so well. Next, we have some beaters at level 0. I personally like this card the best over the Encore level 0 that a lot of decks run. This is just Cordelia that gains 1 level and 1500 if it's the only card on the field, so it's just like 104k. And It's kind of there, just randomly it'll plus you because your opponent can't kill it, and like they can't kill it with suiciders. And then besides that, it's just a little bit more blue since your level 1 game is red and blue. So it helps with that. Next, we got these 4K Cordelia beaters. When they come into play, you gotta mill 2 from the top of your deck, and if you hit a climax, you have to tap it. Basically, this card is kind of silly in this deck since it's since it's 4K base. It also helps you mill your deck faster when you're screwed, like for free. So it's kind of almost like a free brainstorm sometimes. But yeah, usually I don't want to start the game with this card. It's more of a little bit later on when I want to mill a deck. But like if you have to, you just have to and play it. Sometimes you get screwed, sometimes you don't. But for the most part, it's done a lot of work in this deck. Alright, let's move on to our level 1 game. First, I'll start with the supports here. Here is the bunny-eared Aerie. Or not Aerie, I forget her name, but she's just a global 500 to all detectives. And the second ability is the tap 2 detectives and swap a card in your level zone with the card in your waiting room. Basically, this card is amazing. You just kind of want this before you hit level 1, and you want to set up your entire level 1 game blue, and then eventually you'll switch it into red. But this card works great in this deck since we're running 1-0 Shero also, and it just gives it that just a little bit more power, so it's like really annoying for your opponent to get over. Here we have 4 of our beaters right now. This card's actually pretty crazy. For a long time, it was only like valued at $2, and when I first built my first Milky Holmes deck, it was mostly a Cordelia deck because she's one of my favorite characters. But the more I played with this card, the more silly I thought it was, and I was like kind of surprised it was only worth like $2 as a double R, and now it's about a $15 card because I think people started realizing it's actually really good, and then that the added new PRs made it a little easier to run blue. But basically, this card has if you have experience 2 or higher in your this card gains 1K, and then whenever a card goes into your level zone, this card gains 1500 for the turn, and you can only do that once a turn. So we have 4 of that, and as you can see here, the entire point, as a lot of the cards here in this deck, is using like this in the back row, tap 2, swap a card, and give it the experience and the power it needs to get pretty big, and then randomly this card can get really, really huge. Next, we have 4 more beaters. I personally like this card a lot more at level 1, but the blue area or blue Cordelia that I just showed can actually like kill level 3s and stuff later on, or not level 3s, I'm sorry, level 2s, but you'll see why in a second. But basically, this one is for every other detective character. It gains 500, and then it has a hand encore, so it's just pretty much a 106k encore. This is pretty amazing in the deck. It makes everything run a lot smoother when need be. Lets you ditch random things you don't really need, and just like make sure you have like good presence on the field. And normally this card's usually 6.5, sometimes 7k, and as long as you have a constant 6.5, 7k field in front, it's really hard for your opponent to do anything, especially in this deck, because of the next card. We run 4 of these promo counters. This card is pretty insane. It's basically a 103k counter, and that's pretty crazy for level 0, or not 0, level 1. But the supposed drawback here, is that when you use this counter, you have to take a climax in your waiting room and put it in your level zone, or swap a card in your level zone with the climax. So you end up putting a climax in your level zone and taking a card there out and putting it into your waiting room. That should be a downside, but the silly part about this is we have cards like this level 1 Cordelia that gain power when cards swap or go into the level zone. So what happens is it just makes this card a 4,500 counter for this card, or it's hard to see there, this Cordelia. So you can see how like this can get out of control and like kill level 2s and sometimes level 3s if people run into it. But most of the time it's just, you know, it's going to be like a 10k, 10.5 or whatever people have to deal with. And so this card is pretty insane. that supposed drawback is like only a drawback when you're about to refresh, and even at that point you don't really care about losing the character. It also makes these 1-0 Sheros like 9-5 if they like try to run into it or whatever. Or not 9-5, usually 9-5, but like usually 9k 9-5, sometimes 10k, which is pretty ridiculous at level 1 and 2. So people sometimes get a little afraid to run into like your level 1 game and stuff. But yeah, so the entire deck is basically based around this counter and how silly things can get. Next we just have 2 level supports. It basically just has level support and the tap 2 swap a card in your level zone. Then we run 4 of this promo Halloween Cheryl, which is like the best card, like not the best card in this deck, but probably one of my most favorite cards in this deck. Anytime a card enters your level zone, you can pay 1 and discard a card, and this card gains 1500, and the ability is if it reverses your opponent takes 1 damage. So what happens is you drop these at level 3, and your opponent's super afraid because you've shown them this counter early, and if they've been paying attention at all, they're gonna realize that you're gonna get the power and the ability if you counter with this card. And if with no support, this card is like 14-5 with the counter, and you pay for the ability, which is pretty silly. And 14-5 is a pretty like high range where not a lot of people will like get that high, but sometimes it happens. But even then, with support and stuff, this card can get really big when people run into it, and you can randomly kill people. There's been a couple games where my opponent's at 3-6. I have like a couple of these on the field, and then they attack into it first, and I just counter, pay the ability, I like cancel, and then they take 1 and die, and they like die on their turn. It's one of the few like ways you can kill your opponent on their turn, which I think is pretty silly. And then of course this card heals to make it even more broken, but yeah. Then the final level 3s here we have 4 of this Cheryl, which is basically used as kind of a heal, but it also has a climax combo with one of the gates, which is when it attacks, pay 1 and salvage a character, and all your characters gain 2k till end of turn. You usually, if need be, use it in combination with this level 3, just to make sure during your turn that you really want to make sure something gets reversed. Otherwise, the climax combo is just like pretty like icing on the cake there sometimes. You know, just get more characters when you need hand size or loop hills if need be. And then like every deck that has like more than 1 booster support, we have 8 gates here, with this gate being the one that helps with the level 3. Alright, so basically that's the deck. I'm going to talk a little bit about some cool tricks the deck does and like ways the deck play. So basically the entire deck, if you haven't realized yet, is based completely around this 1-0 counter. If you can't play this 1-0 counter, for whatever reason they have like a character that says you can't use backup, sometimes it screws you really bad, since everything about this deck is about this counter. Other times it's like pretty whatever. If you're whatever, just like let your opponent plus a little bit, then kill them at level 3. But besides that, this entire deck is this counter. So almost every time you hit a gate, you're gonna salvage this counter, unless you don't need one. And then let's talk about here this level 1 game here. Basically, here's the Cheryls. Basically, at level 1, you kind of see a problem here. It's for a lot of people, it's like pretty whatever, but like newer players won't understand this, especially since they haven't dealt with like a two-colored level 1 game. But you really want to level up blue at the start for your level 1, and make sure to play these supports and these Cordelias first. Which is something really cool about the deck, is that even though you're 2-colored, it doesn't matter. It doesn't really matter, since you can swap all the time. So what happens is, as soon as you hit level 1, say your opponent hits you to 0-6, you clock and then draw 2, or level, draw 2, and then you have blue there. So you're like, oh, whatever. I play my supports and I play these in hand. Oh damn, I can't play one more character because all I have left is this red Cheryl. But I really wish I could swap cards into my level zone to like fix that. Hey, turns out you can. You just swap your level zone, throw in a red card, and now you can start playing these. And at the same time, you just now buffed these Cordelias by doing that, and this allows you to play 2 colors right at level 1 if you're at 1 and 0, which is pretty silly. And that's like about it for level 1 game. You play these usually to like bait really big things running into it. You play the counter, they get buff, and you just have people die for really silly reasons. Another cool thing about this level swap ability too is that because you have access to, where is it, this bonder, right? And you know, sometimes you refresh and you're like, darn, I really wish like I didn't refresh that turn because I could have bonded next turn to pay out a climax or something, or you just wanted to bond to this level 3 since this bonds to this level 3. A really cool trick here too is you can at level 1 tap 2 or whatever, throw this into levels and just let it sit there for a while. You refresh, right, and then you say you want to get this later, you just swap it, throw it into waiting room, and then play the bonder and get it back, which is a really cool trick that I don't know how many people like actually play this deck and do that, but I think it's like one of the cooler parts about playing Milky Holmes right now is that you have little tricks like that. Or for instance, right before refresh, you put that in and stuff, and say your hand is clogged with a bunch of climaxes, right? You can play this, pay 2, and salvage this climax discarder, the Cheryl climax discarder, and then just salvage one with it and play over it and stuff like that. The deck has just like a lot of really cool utility things going on with it that I don't think a lot of other decks do that often, but I really like it about this deck. Or that's like what I really like about this deck and all the cool little interactions like that. But besides that, let's see. Yeah, nothing really else too interesting about the deck other than the level 3 game here. Another thing too is this 4K Cordelia is actually relevant at level 1 a lot of the times too. So what happens is because you have a 1-0 3K counter, this can randomly be 7-5 8K if it wants to be, and you can randomly kill level 1s, which is a really cool thing too. That's why I think what makes this promo like that much better is that like that 1-0 3K counter exists too. It just randomly can be scary if your opponent doesn't put a level 0 suicider in front of this, or unless you know they're over like 8K or 8.5 or something like that. Besides that though, yeah, nothing else like too out there about this deck. It's just like a little different than some other Weiss decks out there. But yeah, if you have any questions about this deck, or maybe I can like get a game or something and you guys can see how it works sometime, just let me know in the comments below or anything like that, or message me on my blog or anything. But besides that, that's the Milky Holmes deck profile. I don't know if there's like really a name I can give this other than like level swap or whatever. But yeah, some final thoughts on the deck. I think this deck is like super powerful, but like the way Bushiroad's starting to print anti-healers, I don't know how long this could be like an actual super viable deck if like every series is gonna get anti-healers soon. But yeah, this deck it can be really crazy at times. There are some changes I would personally make. This is just the version I used at the Triple Crown game day, so I figured I'd show this before I make any changes. For example, I don't really think I'm gonna be keeping this Cordelia support anymore. It was kind of relevant a few times, but I still don't think it's like worth it. Before I had this in the deck just in case if I never drew one of the supports that let me swap. That way I still have a way to swap. Because if I use that counter and throw a climax in there, I'm kind of screwed. But besides that, yeah, I think that's about it. And oh yeah, if I haven't made it very like clear earlier, like you definitely don't want to use the 1-0 counter right before refresh or anything like that, or if you have no way to get it out usually. And then there was one more big thing about the level 1 game. when you're about to level into level 2, make sure to make sure to remember that this gains power as soon as you level up, because this is a type of card which is like doesn't happen a lot in Weiss, but it's a card your opponent can like misplay against. Some of the examples like the Senju, level 3 Senju from Bakemono. Your opponent can randomly screw up and attack into this thinking it's a lot weaker or anything like that, and then just randomly kill their own character. Same thing with like, you know, the Senju, they run into the level 3 and then you just like kill one of their things and they lose an attack for a turn. But yeah, that's one thing you should remember about this, is that it does gain power when you level up from like 1 to 2 or whatever, or 2 to 3 if it becomes relevant then. I think that's about it. Yeah. Same thing with this thing, except obviously you can't level up anymore, but yeah. But besides that, yeah, this deck is great. Hope you guys like this deck profile and everything. Just like comment below any questions, anything, and hopefully I come out with more videos like this soon. And thanks for watching, and like, comment, subscribe, or whatever. Later, guys.